Hey, yeah, I finally managed to crack this Polish combination lock, this updated version. If I'm sounding tired, it's because I've spent the last week doing pretty much nothing else but trying all sorts of techniques to try and decode this. And what I've done here, I've loosely put this, I forget what you call these sort of pliers, but it locks. It locks onto the turning wheel, and I've put a plastic straw over it so that it's gripping the plastic and it's not tight, so I'm not damaging the lock. I've also put the lock in a vise, and I've even I've even clamped the vise so that nothing will move. And these straws, I've put several of them inside each other, going all the way over here, and put a needle on the end. So what I'm doing is that I tried all sorts of things to try and decode this lock, and I'll just show you the one that worked. Now, I've got rubber bands and these wooden things to lift up the straw a little bit, because the needle, it can't be dragging but needs to sort of freely move. And what I was doing, I would turn the first wheel numbers by numbers and see how far that knob would turn. Now remember, with this lock, if I try and tension it too much, it'll just keep on turning round and round and round, and that is the security that the Polish inventor came up with to thwart my previous attack, and it did. So I had to come up with this. And so anyway, I would turn it, and it would go to, if I get these papers out the way, I would turn it, and I would mark off where it would get up to, and then I would write that down, and then I would see. The point is, I would turn it, but not too much, right? So if I turn it too much, then, as I say, it'll just turn round and round. So I needed to try and tension it just the right amount, and the idea is, if I'm over some correct numbers, the front knob will turn just that little bit more. And because these this needle is so long, the slightest angle difference should show up here. But the problem is, I had great difficulty with inconsistent feedback with the magnets. So it was a real struggle. I was really pulling my hair out. Okay, so first of all, this is the correct code. Gee, I can't even read it. 31435. 829. 7 combinations. And what happens is that, because I put in the correct code, this will turn even more, and this will turn and turn and turn right off the page. You know, it's crikey. It'll turn all the way, which will lock this wheel pack, and this wheel pack can turn. It doesn't turn very much, only this much, and then the shackle can be removed. Okay, so I'm going to lock that back up again. Okay, so it's locked up. Okay, I've turned all the combinations by one, so the wrong combination is entered. Okay, first of all, if I try and turn this, the numbers have to be exact, so I used a little little piece of wood to put the numbers exact. Try and put them exact. So hang on, what's going on here? Because it's only turning this much, you know, the needle isn't even getting to the paper. So let's have a look. Oh yeah, so see how it turns more and it reaches the paper. Now the thing is, if I tension a little bit and then let go, it'll just bounce back. And where it bounces back is inconsistent because of friction between the wheels. So even though I tried to investigate that, it was no good. I was just getting nowhere. Too much noise and not enough signal because of the friction between the wheels. And so I tried to do a consistent tension, and it was very difficult to do it by feel. I was getting inconsistent results. I even tried a rubber band to tension it, but again, I think tension between the wheels, it didn't work. I wasted many days on those investigating all this, but what worked is that you know how I said if I turn it too much, turn, and there it's just turned, and it'll just keep turning and turning and turning and turning. It's but and yet it won't open. It'll just keep turning 360 degrees around and around and around. So because and then I have to put it back and reset it and make sure the magnets are engaged. And again, I've got tension where it wants to stop about there. If I tension a bit more and let go, it'll bounce back. And so what I eventually came up with is that there is a point where if I tension this more and more and more, as I say, the magnets will they'll disengage and it will just freely turn. And at that point, I captured that on this piece of paper. I made a note, and it turns out that it's quite a reliable and consistent thing to look at. Each time I do it on a particular combination, like for this one, if I turn it, and then suddenly it just jumped away free because it only turned to a certain number. What was that number? I couldn't really see. I'm trying to do this through the camera. So it's about 44 at the moment, 45, 46. Oh, okay, and just jump there. So that number, whatever it was, 46, 47, I'd write that down. And then, when the first wheel actually gets to the correct number, this dial will turn a little bit more before it jumps away free. I'll see if I can show you that. Okay, I'll turn the first 3 wheels to the correct number just to make it obvious, because what I actually had to do was I had to figure out which number on the first wheel made it turn a little bit more, and once I was happy with that, I'd go to the second wheel and figure out which number on that wheel. I'm calling this the first wheel, by the way, even though the first number of the combination goes here. And yes, I'd go to the next wheel and I would see which number made it turn even more. And I'd keep on turning more and more and more before that point at where the magnets would disengage and it would turn free. I've put the first 3 wheels in the correct number just to make that jump a little bit more obvious, hopefully. Okay, again, I'm going to try and do this through the camera. Okay, we'll see if it turns a little bit more before it jumps away, because I'm just increasing the tension more and more and more. I'm not sure if this camera's focusing actually. So is at 47, it's gone past 47, past 48, and there it's just jumped away. Was at 49 or something like that. So it's quite a noticeable jump distance. It was quite a it moved quite a noticeable amount before it jumped away, being free. Okay, so and yet I can show you more obviously if I put all the numbers except the last wheel in the correct position. Okay, I've put all the wheels, I've put all these wheels except the very back wheel to the correct combinations. Only the back wheel doesn't have the correct combination, but all these wheels do. And okay, when I turn it, it goes turn, turn, turn. I'll try and get out of the light so the camera can focus. It goes turn, turn, turn. It goes past, well past where it did before, and keeps going, keeps going, keeps going, and I'm still tensioning it, still hasn't broken away free. It goes way, and there it just broke away free there. So you see how it turned that massive amount where all these wheels were on the correct combination and just the back one was no good. Now, just to show you how that, how that jumped away at my marking, it's something like 60 or something like that. If I just change the front wheel to a different number, there, I just changed this wheel to a different number, and now you will see, get out of the light, goes turn, 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 and only goes to about, it's starting to tension at like, it's up to 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, and then it just jumped away. Okay, and it's all free. So it didn't get very far. Okay, so what happens is that the correct order for me to do it was, if I use this as a pointer, I had to sort out the front wheel, and then move on to the next wheel, and then the next wheel, this, and so on, going through the pack. Okay, and when I'd already spent a week on this, and this technique of taking a note of where it suddenly broke away, disengaged with the magnets and wasn't tensioning anymore, it was just turning free. When I took a note of those points and tried that method, that was just my last method I was going to try before I was going to give up. But it was so, as I say, it was so consistent and reliable. I managed to use it, and I thought that the false gates would be at different heights on different wheels, and I didn't know if the actuator bar was going to hit here or here, but in actual fact it seemed to be in order that I had to do it this one, this one, this one, this one, so that made it a little bit easier as well. But basically that's the method I used. So in summary, I could use the fact that when the magnets disengaged and it turned freely, it would always do it at the same point, but when this wheel here was at the correct number, so it didn't have a false gate, it had a true gate, then the bar could go down a little bit further before the magnet's disengaged. So in other words, I could turn this knob a little bit more before the magnet's disengaged, and because this turned more, this would be reflected here. I could see it translate into these numbers, that it would the more I could turn it before it disengaged, then I knew that number was a good candidate. And so I chose the best number for each wheel, as I say, going through the wheels in order. So boom, 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 until the lock opened. And so, as I say, once I finally cottoned on to this method, it took me about 3.5 hours to decode this lock using that method. And I just had to go through the wheels a few times because the wheels at the front, the distances were quite obvious, but as I moved through, then the distances got subtler and subtler and smaller, and so it was harder to figure out which one was the correct number. So I just had to go through the wheels a few times. What I want to say about this lock, first of all, I've spent so much time and pulling so much of my hair out. I'm ready to have a break, and the Polish inventor is inventing more and more secure designs and is going to incorporate what I've said about this lock and the method I've used to decode it, and he will put in he will put in a fix so it's not vulnerable anymore. And I didn't think I would be able to decode this one, but I'm the type of person who gets very obsessed, so I was spending lots of time on this lock and not getting much sleep, and it's not good for me. So I'm ready to have a break from this, and for the new designs, if there's another tester out there who wants to test the locks, that would be good, because I'm going to steer clear of these locks for a while. But another thing I want to say is, as well, they're just becoming more and more secure, which is great. It would make some sort of really good safe lock, something like that. But as for marketing this lock, that's always an uphill battle, even with a good idea, and it's going to be even harder in this case because there's already secure locks out there, like Sargent and Greenleaf, secure, safe, and Vault locks, and so it's going to be hard. And not only that, but I believe that the future is digital, so it's going to be really hard to market this lock. But I wish the inventor good luck and all the very best. Cheers.